Hey, and welcome to the second module of the d.MBA program, where we will learn more about business strategy. So business strategy is a fascinating and fundamental concept to everything happening in the business world. And by deeply internalizing the principles of strategy, we will just naturally approach our design work different in a way that's even more inclusive of the business reality. So good business strategy is a cornerstone of every successful venture and product for three reasons. And these are also the reasons we want to be learning about strategy. So first of all, strategy and good strategy leads to competitive advantage, which also leads to above average financial results. This means more revenue or more profit. And this is important for us also as designers because it means that our organization has more resources to reinvest to create even better value proposition. Secondly, good business strategy is like an instructions manual, which means that it leads to more coherent decision-making in the company. So it's instruction manual in a sense that everybody in the company knows what they have to do and what they shouldn't do and how they should make decisions, right? It means that everybody in the company is pulling in the same direction. And finally, the final reason business strategy is so important is because it enables us to have unique value proposition. What you will learn later in this module is that strategy is not necessarily about being the biggest company or the best company, whatever that means, but it's about being a different company. So by its definition, being different also sets us on the right path to have a unique value proposition, which we all know as designers how important it is to have that on the market. So the way that this module is structured is that first chapter is basically like a definition of business strategy. The next three, so from chapter 2 to 4, we will cover three strategic decisions, basically strategic goals, places, and activities. And then in the final chapter, we will go one level deeper to apply strategic thinking to products. So now let's basically just jump into the first chapter where we will define business strategy. And the reason we want to spend the whole chapter on that is because there's so many misconceptions about strategy. It's just one of those words that you can hear in almost every meeting, and it's mostly being used in a wrong way. And because in the business setting, strategy has a very specific purpose and meaning. And I'll try to explain the rationale and the definition through the example in the airline industry by looking at two groups of companies. So on one side, we have companies like Lufthansa, United Airways, British Airways, and on the other side, we have companies like EasyJet, Ryanair, AirAsia, and Southwest Airlines. So you can probably recognize right away that the first group belongs to a more traditional airline group or more premium airline, which have higher prices and also offer more services. And the second one kind of belongs to a low-cost group where a lot of these companies have just lower prices but also offer fewer services. And the reason you recognize these two groups as different is because they have different strategies. Different strategies means they also carry out different type of activities within this industry. So in each industry you have certain like a set of activities you can choose from. In this case, this would be decisions such as where do we fly to and from, how do we offer a food service on the plane, the luggage service, entertainment, all of that stuff. So what traditional airlines do is they offer all kind of premium features such as lounges in the airports, you have more leg room, food and luggage is included in the price, there's entertainment and longer flights, and so on. On the other side, the low-cost group just takes all kind of trade-off decisions to keep their prices low. This means that you have smaller leg room, there's food and luggage is not included in the price, you need to basically pay for it on top. They're not flying usually to the most popular and biggest airports because they're more expensive. They're usually flying to the second or third biggest airports in that area just because they are cheaper. And all of that helps them kind of keep their prices low. So what you can see here is that these two kind of groups of companies who have completely different strategy just do different things. And that's what strategy in its essence is. Strategy is basically choosing what to do and not to do. It's very important to be very explicit about these are the stuff we're doing and not doing, because if you're not explicit, then you end up doing both. And that's what strategy is. It's about making trade-off decisions. It's not I will do this and that, but it's I will do this and not that, for this and this reason. And the best analogy of that is basically mountains, right? So you can't climb two mountains at the same time. You need to choose which one you want to climb, because if you try to do both, you will just be stuck in the valley. The same goes for strategy and companies. A lot of airlines have tried to do both things, be low cost and premium at the same time, and it just didn't work. It just can't work. So let's maybe a little bit expand our definition of the strategy, just to see basically what are the main components of it. So the first thing, as I just said, is the fact that business strategy is a trade-off decision. That's the most important thing. It's always about making trade-off choices. Secondly, it is about being very smart about the fit we want to have between our goals and investments. And I'll show you an example of that in a bit. And finally, what the goal of business strategy is to find a valuable place in the arena. A good example of that is Southwest Airlines, which in 2019 recorded its 47th consecutive profitable year. This is an amazing achievement, especially in the industry, which is famous for its low profitability and many bankruptcies in the last 20 years. And during this time, Southwest Airlines has been going very strong financially. And the reason they're just so strong is because they are very conscious of the trade-off decisions of what they do and don't do. So for example, what Southwest Airlines has decided to do is to bypass all the intermediaries, and they're selling their tickets directly to customers. Secondly, they don't offer snacks as a part of the package, so you need to buy food on the plane, which, if you think about it, just means you have less work with food, because you know that not everybody is gonna eat your food, which is the case if it's for free, right? In this case, you have less work with it, and you're also making money on top of that. The third thing that Southwest Airlines does differently is it has a different type of transportation typology, let's call it. It's a point-to-point departure. It means that they are connecting cities directly, which is a little bit different to the premium airlines, which a lot of times have the hub and spoke system, which means that especially if you're flying from a less known airport to another less known airport, you just need to take two flights to get your to the end destination. Whereas with a lot of low-cost carriers, and especially with Southwest, they just try to connect you directly, which means you get there faster. And lastly, really interesting decision they made is to only fly one type of airplane, which is 737 Boeing, which gives you a lot of benefits. First of all, your crew just needs to be trained on one aircraft. Secondly, you're more flexible. So if somebody from a crew gets sick, it's easy to exchange it with somebody else because everybody can operate the same flight and the same plane. And finally, you can negotiate better with the Boeing in this case, so with the company selling you airplanes. Because you're buying, larger quantity from them, you can just drive the price down. So this is the example I was telling you about before. An example of a really good fit between our goals and our strategy and our investments. Once you are really clear what mountain you want to climb, there are all these little things that we can make to amplify our decision. And here is where you see a big difference between companies which know which mountain they're climbing and those who are just doing different things. Obviously, having a very clear list of things you want to do means you also need to know what you're not doing. So in this case, Southwest Airlines is not having hub and spoke system. It's not offering luggage and food on the plane. It doesn't have different classes, like business and economy, etc. So these are kind of the things that they decided not to do. So now that we know what strategy is, let's have a quick look at what it isn't. As I said before, there are many misconceptions, and one of them is that strategy is interchangeable with company's vision. And a lot of people say, hey, our vision or our goal is to increase revenue by 20% next year, or our strategy is to increase our revenue by 20% next year. That's not your strategy. That is your goal. Your strategy would be how you can get there. The second thing that strategy is not is operational effectiveness. Operational effectiveness is another word for doing something better or more effective than anyone else. And the reason this is not a strategy is because it's not a trade-off. If you're doing something better, it means that other companies are doing it too, and they can catch up with you. And strategy by definition means doing different things, not better. Which also kind of leads us to the third reason, the third thing on our list, which is processes. So business strategy, you can't say that, because I'm using design thinking, or like using design thinking is our strategy. It can't be true, because all of these best practices are things or methodologies that even other companies can adopt. And this means that, again, it's not a trade-off decision, it's something that a lot of companies can do. And finally, strategy is not a plan. Obviously, you need a plan to implement your strategy, but just equating both things is wrong, because I can be creating a plan for how to go on my vacation, where to go, how to get there, and that's definitely not strategy. So just be mindful of the difference. So now we basically know what strategy is, and even more importantly, what it isn't. So in the next video, we will have a look at our strategic framework, and especially at the first step in our strategic framework, which is strategic goals. So see you in the next chapter.